what's up YouTube? Today we're going to be going over the top Headhunter builds that you can possibly be playing. Now the reason behind this video is because yesterday I actually accidentally looted a Headhunter belt. Now you might be wondering, how could someone accidentally loot a Headhunter in a map? Well, I was doing these leeching services where people join your map and they pretty much just give you party quant, but they're just there to get experience, and the experience is pretty good. It's somewhere next to around slightly worse than a 5-way in terms of experience if you have 100% uptime in the map. But basically, I was just looting the map, and there's a lot of loot that drops on the ground because it is 100% quant with like 500% rarity. And if you can blink, you will probably miss it. So right here, I'm just grabbing everything. And did you see me pick up the Headhunter? Well, I didn't even know I picked it up. Someone in chat actually caught me picking it up, and this is the fastest pickup of a Headhunter you'll ever seen in your life. Now, I don't even know how I did this. It is a miracle. So let's slow down the tape. So right here, you see, I was kind of trying to move the character and the letter belt just appeared on my cursor. Now, this is like God or Chris Wilson putting the Headhunter into my hands with the placement of the belt. So right there, I don't know if you can see, it happens so fast that I'm so surprised that someone actually caught it. But as you can see here, you pause it. You can see here, it is a Headhunter belt on my cursor that I accidentally picked up. And people were telling me, oh, you dropped a Headhunter, and I'm like, where? And I thought someone in my group that I was doing the leeching service actually took it, until I just looked at everyone in the group. They all seemed pretty trustworthy. It's kind of like playing Among Us. I just trusted everyone, and then I finally looked in my inventory, and there it was. I accidentally picked it up. I was the imposter after all, and the person who stole the Headhunter from myself, pretty much. So as you can see here, it's clearing the map. I had no idea that it even dropped, and it took me my minutes down the line before I realized what happened. Let's watch it again one more time in slow motion, and it's just so fast that I would have no idea. If the person never told me in chat, I would have been so confused when I went to the sell screen and I saw that I just had a Headhunter sitting in my inventory, and I would have thought it was some sort of divine intervention. But I wanted to share that because it ties into today's video about what are the actual best builds to play with the belt that we just received on accident. So for this belt right now, before we get started, let's talk about the state of Headhunter after it's been like almost a week since the buffs. Headhunter is a belt that's really consistent now and is more consistent than ever before. If you do a juice map, without fail, you will have like 40 buffs going on for like the entire duration of the map. You can definitely play Simulacrum now on some builds that you wouldn't be able to before, and pretty much do it with 10 to 15 Headhunter buffs at all times. I was able to finish a Simulacrum run on my Venom Gyro character that I was testing out with Trinity that only had around 3.2k HP, but it was pretty much unkillable because you just had so many Headhunter buffs, and it gives you block, it gives you max res, it gives you pretty much everything you need. And certain builds do benefit a lot more from Headhunter, like I've said in the past, Fizz conversion and attack builds mainly, and builds that scale off area, because Headhunter actually gives you a lot of area. And the belt is currently at a 12% usage rate with Mage Blood at 28%. So if we take a look at it here, it's pretty far behind Mage Blood, 12% to 28%. It's probably the biggest gap that has ever existed since the belt's inception of Mage Blood. So number one build, no surprise, it is Tornado Shot. Tornado Shot is probably number one because people really like playing it, and it was number one build lastly without Headhunter being nerfed or changed right now. Now, Tornado Shot is kind of interesting in that it's a pretty even split down the line between physical and elemental variants. So you can see here, most of the people who run the elemental variant will be using the interrogation, and that's at 45%, while everyone doing Fizz will not be running the interrogation because they like the shatter. Now, the reason why Headhunter is so good with Tornado Shot is because it really benefits from Soul Eater. You attack really, really fast. The additional projectiles actually leads to even more shotgunning potential, so he even has higher single target. Tornado Shot on Fizz benefits a lot from Fizz's Extra, probably one of the best builds in the game. And you also get additional chains from some of the Headhunter Arch Nemesis mods. And this is probably one of the very, very few builds that is actually ahead of Mage Blood. So we actually look at Tornado Shot here. Mage Blood is at 41% and Headhunter is at 44%. Showing that most people who play bow builds still prefer the power of Headhunter, even if Mage Blood is incredibly strong at giving you that bossing power. And most people who play bow builds are not really magic finding. So if you go look at Tornado Shot, in order to find someone who's using magic find, you'd really look for Gold Worm or Ventor's Gamble or something like that. And Ventor's Gamble is all the way down to 7%. So most people probably just enjoy doing some random juice maps on bow builds, and Headhunter is just the way it's always gone because Headhunter gives you a lot of move speed and everything, so it makes everything feel a lot smoother. So number 2, we have Kinetic Blast. Kinetic Blast is actually at number 2 at 17%. Now, if you look at the top builds with Headhunter, they're all very close to one another besides Blade Vortex. And then after Blade Vortex, it really falls off a cliff. And Righteous Fire is actually at number 5. But for Kinetic Blast, it's kind of the same thing. It benefits from Fizz Conversion, additional projectiles. And the big difference between Kinetic Blast and Tornado Shot is the fact that you get a lot of area of effect. Tornado Shot doesn't really benefit from area of effect. It benefits a lot more from additional projectiles. But Kinetic Blast has this AoE that causes it to have a lot of overlaps. And the overlaps are pretty much shotgunning in the sense that a mob can get hit by every single overlap from a projectile. So that's why it's very, very good for Kinetic Blast, and especially shines on indoor maps. Now, Kinetic Blast is mainly a magic finding build at the moment because Kinetic Blast is pretty much a clear skill. It is still incredibly hard to use Kinetic Blast to do any bossing, even with the new Sentinel mods on the boots. And you can see here, a lot of the people using Headhunter are also 5-way carries using Kinetic Blast. So I would say that 70% of the people are doing magic finding on Kinetic Blast, and then the other 30% are probably playing some sort of 5-way character. And Deadeye is the overwhelming favorite for Kinetic Blast. If we look at Tornado Shot, it's also Deadeye. So Deadeye is pretty much like the best in-slot class for any projectile ranged attack build. Now, this build is very, very heavy on Magic Find at the moment. Gold Ward 70%, Sedema 70%, Ventor's Gamble 68%, and Mantra of Flames 62%. Now, Mantra of Flames is something that is pretty much mandatory with every Headhunter build because of how many extra new Headhunter buffs that work with Mantra of Flames currently. They added a lot of buffs to Headhunter that actually allows Mantra of Flames to work. So you can see here, Mantra of Flames is actually used by only 11% on Tornado Shot. I think a lot of people who use Fizz Conversion don't really use Mantra of Flames, even though it should be pretty strong still. So Lightning Strike is actually at number 3 at 17%. I do think that Lightning Strike, when I tried it out with Inspired Learning, it was kind of annoying, but it's mainly because I was using Whirling Blades. If you do decide to play Lightning Strike with Headhunter, you should definitely use Shield Charge because Shield Charge does not get affected by Echoist for some reason. But basically, 50% of Lightning Strike Headhunter users are actually Raiders, with Champion at 24% and Berserker at 22%. And this is mainly because Champion has to use Perseverance Belt. But this is kind of the thing like where Champion kind of falls off in like super juice maps because they can't use a Headhunter without losing a lot of their damage from Perseverance. Now, Lightning Strike is a lot better with Headhunter than you might think because it actually benefits a lot from Chain and extra projectiles. With Chain and extra projectiles, Headhunter is able to go above the ledges with the projectiles, and it actually helps out a lot. Say you're doing Promenade, your projectiles can chain from the bottom to the top of the ledge, allowing you to clear both sides at once. And Lightning Strike, of course, is a build that scales incredibly well with attack speed. If anyone's ever seen Hate Forge before, Vol Lightning Strike benefits greatly from attack speed, and it's just an amazing, amazing skill with more attack speed and Soul Eater buffs. And Lightning Strike is really popular. Like the main theme you'll see throughout this video is that all of the top skills are also that are popular with Headhunter will be at the very top of the best Headhunter builds, obviously. So next up, we have Blade Vortex. Now, Blade Vortex is kind of a different one in the sense that I actually tried it out. Blade Vortex does not benefit from Headhunter as much as the previous builds I showed you, purely because you don't get any real benefit from cast speed or even attack speed or Soul Eater buffs on Blade Vortex. The main benefit of Blade Vortex is that you get a really huge AoE that actually helps out for your Explode on your chest and Explode on Heralds. And Blade Vortex is number 4 at 9%. There's actually a lot of different ascendancies for Blade Vortex, and I'm pretty surprised about it. If we look at Blade Vortex over here, we have 57% Occultist, 15% Ascendant, 14% Assassin, 12% Inquisitor, and some weirdos playing Chieftain and Elementalist. Now, Occultist is still the most popular one due to Cold being really strong, and getting power charges is much more accessible now with the Ring Sentinel mod. I actually don't know why there's so many Ascendants playing Blade Vortex. Someone must have made a guide about an Ascendant, because I'm not really sure how good Ascendant actually is. So let's go see what the Ascendants actually play. So they're doing some Omni Pariah stuff. So maybe some streamer made a build regarding Ascendant, because it's kind of a weirder choice, because most of these people are using Pariah. So maybe it's some new build that came out. But let me know down in the comments below why so many people are on Ascendant Blade Vortex, because I don't really think Occultist or Assassin can really be beat. Now, Blade Vortex has something interesting. It's an elemental damage skill, but it doesn't really use Omni at a super high amount. If we look at the previous builds, 80% Omni, and no one really uses Omni on Kinetic Blast because they're magic finding. And Tornado Shot is 82% Omni. So why does Blade Vortex not use Omni? Now, the reason behind that is that +2 spell skill amulets are incredibly strong and actually almost just as much damage as Omni. If we look at this, so every single Ascendant player is using Omni, so that must mean something is going on. But this person uses a +2 Fizz and multi amulet, and here we have the same exact thing. So +2 Fizz with multi is probably more damage than Omni gives, and it probably helps out a lot to have some little extra life on top and not have all your strength converted to life. So basically, it's kind of a diverse, interesting concept with Blade Vortex. Pretty wide variety of skills or variety of sentences being played on Blade Vortex. Now, next up, we have Righteous Fire. And at this point, every single skill is pretty much meh, in that none of these skills really benefit from Headhunter that much. And there's really just not many skills after number 4. So right now, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel. So right now, we look at Headhunter and we go try to look for the rest of the skills. There's really no skill after Blade Vortex. It's Righteous Fire, Spark, and then Cast on Crit, which is actually terrible. And I do think if there's a skill that would actually be at number 5 because of how good it is with Headhunter, I would probably put Winter Orb. Winter Orb actually benefits a lot from Soul Eater and cast speed. It also benefits from AoE for the overlap. It also benefits from AoE from the Herald explosions. It's just not popular enough because I don't think a streamer has really played it as much, and there's no new guide about it. But I do think that Winter Orb has a lot of potential, and this guy actually has a lot of damage. Oh, he's playing some weird setup with it. But actual Winter Orb damage, you can see not many people play, and this is some really low damage for Winter Orb still. Now, Righteous Fire is at number 5 purely because Righteous Fire is the most popular skill, and then there's some random people who decided to put a Headhunter belt on. So it's at 5% with Spark being close behind at 4%. But if you actually look at Righteous Fire and Spark, you can see that 31% of the people on Righteous Fire are using a Mage Blood compared to 4% for Headhunter. And this build, none of these builds, like Righteous Fire or Minion builds, really benefit at all from Soul Eater or Fizz conversion or the extra cast speed. So if I actually had to choose a real number 5, and I do think that there should be another skill up here, I'll probably go with Spark or Cyclone, or Spark or Winter Orb, because those skills actually greatly benefit from Soul Eater, and they greatly benefit from the extra cast speed. I think EK or any Fizz spells would be greatly beneficial with the new Headhunter. And you could potentially make an Aura Stacker with Headhunter and use Ethereal Knives, and maybe that would be pretty good. But as you can see, best benefits for the Headhunter is definitely any Fizz conversion builds, any builds that benefit a lot from attack and cast speed. And the problem is right now, if you look at the meta up and down, most of the builds do not really benefit from it, and that's why Headhunter is way down below at 12%. So we look here, Righteous Fire is no good, Cast on Crit is no good, Summon Skeletons is no good, Ward Loop is no good at all. Cast on Crit Forbidden Rite is no good, EA Totems is no good, BD is no good, and Phantasmal Cremation is not good at all with it. So there's so many builds that don't really benefit from it. A lot of builds would just be a lot more well-rounded by running 1 to 2 Inspires and using Mage Blood. And the belt slot is more competitive than ever with slots like Perseverance, you have Mage Blood, you have Headhunter, and then you even have Synth Attribute belts. We go look at Spectral Throat, for instance, and the new deck stacking archetype that people use. Let's go see here, none. And this guy here, 18 mil DPS. That's pretty impressive. So you can see here, a lot of people just straight up use a percent dex, percent strength belt because it just gives so much damage, and that's for in-stackers and dex stackers. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope this gives you some inspiration if you're looking to use a Headhunter belt and you just wanted something different than using Mage Blood or Perseverance all day, to give you a kind of a concept of what builds really benefit from it. And there's really not that many, but just stick to the ones I mentioned and you'll have a great time regardless of what happens. But thanks for watching. I hope you find more Mirrors, Exalts, and Mage Bloods than me. And see you next time. Bye.